Hey everybody, this is Talkative Carl back again for another Keanu Reeves movie review. And today will be, I guess, to most of y'all, be a more unconventional Keanu Reeves film. It's called Destination Wedding, starring Keanu Reeves and Winona Ryder. And of course, these two, it's not the first time they were in a movie together. If you recall, way back in the day, they starred in a movie, Bram Stoker's Dracula. And of course, this is one of those films where, like, Keanu Reeves, as it was pointed out and joked about for the longest time, his bad London accent, or English accent in that film. But these two, always had great chemistry. And little known fact, Keanu Reeves and Winona Ryder in that Dracula movie, uh, in the film, their characters were supposed to be are wedded, but the priest, what pronounce like unorthodox or some kind of like priest. Uh, at least there's, I want to say, a rumor. Nobody knows for certain, not even the director, that priest might have been a real priest. So no one knows for certain if Winona Ryder and Keanu Reeves are actually husband and wife to this day. So I'm not sure why they can't like look it up. I won't say look it up, but it's just like, I don't know if that priest at the time may have passed away or something like that. But it's like it's kind of like a thing. There's kind of like almost like a running joke, but it's like kind of situation. Of course, Keanu Reeves is already married to, legit married to his like current wife, and Winona Ryder is always living her life kind of situation. So it's like, it's kind of not something to hash out. But always thought that was like, oh well, that's an interesting fact. They actually might be actually married. But anyway, this is kind of like a rom-com directed by Destination Wedding. Was directed by Victor Levin, who has wrote, did a lot of writing and directing for TV shows like Mad Men, and like there's another film, I think 227, not 227, but it's like something that Victor did beyond this. It's got numbers in it. Check the IMDb. What was it? Oh, 527. The number 5, the word 2, and the number 7. And he also wrote, or at least a producer for Mad About You. So Destination Wedding was like and 5 to 7 is actually his only 2 big films. Well, big, but yeah, this movie stars like Keanu Reeves and Winona Ryder, who plays Lindsay and Frank, and they ended up bumping into each other. Hilarious, because I remember the trailer to this day of Destination Wedding back in 2017 when it was announced, and I saw the trailer, and it's like, I don't know if it was like was working at the time, or because if I had to because I know I didn't go to the theaters to see it, but maybe because I didn't have money, or at least not enough to warrant to go to a theater. I'm not sure what the situation was, but I should have went to go to the theater to see this movie because it looked so interesting, and it's like, just the trailer alone kind of made me laugh so hard. Just the chemistry between these two actors was just like just phenomenal. And like, from when it was finally put out on, well, it was when I found out it was on DVD, later on that year of release, after because it was released in August of 2018, but like maybe like a few months later when it was on DVD, I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about that thing. It was like, because it was promoted, but it's not like super heavy or whatever like that. But it's kind of like the way John Wick was, where it's like the first one, where it's like it was promoted, but it wasn't like heavy handed. It kind of like felt like it came and went until like other people start talking about it, but it wasn't the same way with Destiny's Wedding. Once I saw the commercial for the DVD, I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot it. And then I looked it up and found it was on Amazon Prime, and I was like, I want to check this out. And then, you know, I'm going to just say it right here and now. I'm going to go over the film, and I might get some disagreements, but I actually love this film. And I will get to why at the end, but that just right off the bat, and I'll tell you why. Now, Frank and Lizzie bumping each other into the airport, and of course, trying to be cordial, like Lindsay trying to strike a conversation with Frank, telling like, oh, it's like it was playing like going to be late. Like, no, it was actually pretty early. I went online and checked the thing. This play has pretty good records of arrival time and blah blah blah. And of course, Frank starts stepping up forward, just and then she just blurted out, was like, I can't believe you just did it. Like, what? You just move right in front of me. Well, it's like he just started mentioning how and it's like I understood what he's talking about, because the fact that you get dragged into these you ever gone to like any kind of public area and you're waiting in line or whatever, and some stranger just try to strike up or even if you trying to ask a simple question, it's like an open-ended kind of question. You ever been in a position where it's like somebody try to drag you into a whole conversation or trying to tell a big ass story where you're not even close to being interested? You just want to know, is this gate on time or not, or is this, it's coming or whatever. And it's like after they give you the answer, they, or at least eventually give you the answer, you just kind of like, how I get out of this conversation kind of attitude. And it's like he did it just masterfully. It's just that was and just mentions, I don't want to get trapped in a swirling vortex. He pretty much he doesn't want to get. He put it more succinctly, but basically he doesn't want to get trapped in a swirling vortex, of a conversation which he does not care to have. And she's flummoxed about his his behavior. They come to realize they are going on this well, it's kind of like a biplane, but it's kind of like a private plane to this destination wedding, which turns out to be Frank's brother or half brother, given by the details. And Lindsay used to date that brother 6 years prior to the film story. And they never met because Frank's family, Frank's pretty much rarely want to interact with his family. He doesn't care to deal with the ins and outs of his brother's relationships. He never, because he never met Lindsay nor the current wife to be. He honestly does not care. And these two honestly are just annoying the hell out of each other. But I like the dialogue though. And some complained about how, at least a critic specifically complained about the bloated dialogue, but it's I don't find it that bloated, because honestly it's just maybe because these actors delivering it so well, it makes it work. And it's just the cynicism of Frank is just intoxicating. It's not because sometimes I don't really care for it, Rick Sanchez in Rick and Morty. His cynicism weighs on me after a certain period. But with Frank's, it's just the right amount. And it's their viewpoints on relations, they start getting after they realize, okay, once they get to their destination and they, their living quarters, at least like kind of like, not, it's kind of like a hotel, but it's like a motel. It's like a little ritzy spot. Where it's not like like a Hilton or anything like that, but it's still really nice. And they get adjoining rooms, and uh, uh, once they go to like the reception, uh, they, because like the way the seating arrangements, they are stuck in like a spot where like nobody, they don't know where to stick people kind of situation, and they even bring that up in a hilarious way. Like Winona Ryder's character Lindsay is like, I don't want to be somewhere knowing nobody doesn't know where to stick, kind of situation. And since they are put in a position to be next to each other, they end up just carrying on just like a conversation. And like this is where like the movie really gets on the roll, where they sit there mocking the other guests, and it's so freaking funny. And it's like when like Lindsay sees because Frank's father and mother are divorced, and his father's new girlfriend is actually a woman, a few years older than he is. And he's already old. And it was like the fact that it was so funny. The woman looked like she can't even stand on her own. He's holding her up right, and like for most of the time. And it's like these two just clowning the hell out of Now it's like it's like Frank mentions it's like when it was in high school, he was a freshman and she was a senior, and like Lindsay was like, well, it looks like she's a senior again. It's like it's so to that effect. It was so well delivered. It's hilarious, and it's because, to be honest, that's me. I like to clown people. Like when I see strangers walking by, usually I like to people watch, especially when I'm like, when it's hot or like just nice outside, and I like to take a walk on like one of my days off and just just sit and chill, or if I'm just at like a movie theater or waiting for the movie to start, and I'm sitting there looking at the people, and in my head I'm clowning them, and like I was like a friend of mine, I used to hang out with a lot. She and me, I remember one time, just a little, like it was years ago, but just full disclosure. Me and her went to a strip club. We went to like a handful, but it was one time I remember. No, it's actually a couple of times, but I remember one time how she pointed out there's this dude that walked in and kind of looked like Liu Kang from Mortal Kombat. I looked over and I laughed my ass off, and it was like we just did that, and it's like that's how my mind operates. It's like, because I have my own set of people that I'm cool with, and then like I can it's like I'm at an age where it's like I got these group of people. These are the group of people I hang out with and socialize with. That's on my level of like thinking. It's like you have that core group where it's like you can have room for people, but you're like at a point where it's like, this is my core network that I can always fall back to. Whereas like I don't always have to call, but they're there when I need a kind of situation. And it's like there's like even a few among them where it's like you can like they're like eye to eye, think as way as you do. And like these two are exactly how me and my friend behave when we just roasting people. And it's like, because not that I hate people, just like it's like Frank. There are days when like people kind of annoy me. And it's not that I hate people. It's just, well, when it comes to like maybe like racists or Nazis, fuck them. But it's just in general, I don't hate people. But it's just like it doesn't stop me from making fun of people if I see some goofy shit that I want to make fun of. And it's just like that dynamic between these two is just perfect. And if like do yourself a favor and at least check out that scene and just watch the movie from the way it begins up till after this reception scene and see how you feel. And like, let's see where this goes kind of attitude. You'll get that feeling. Because I didn't expect, I thought I liked it enough when I first watched it on Amazon Prime when it came out like a few months after the movie release. And like I seen this, I think this is my 5th time watching this movie, since then. Because I was shocked how much, I enjoyed this film. And and it's like, it goes off, the movie goes off in like certain chapters, and it's like there's like a title, and it's like more PC, but it's kind of only not PC, but it's like more real, like for I can't remember the distinct title that was crossed out. It was basically like I can't believe I'm at this fucking wedding, and then they cross it out, and you just have wedding, and it's like I like that. It's like very creative, because it's like you have like your real thoughts, but then your more politically correct thought, or at least more rational thought that you would rather is more appropriate to say verbally amongst everybody, a whole group of people. And that's the thing, it's kind of like the way their professions is, because he works at like as a marketing he runs marketing for JD Power and Associates, and she works as like a prosecutor for people who, well, it's a funny joke that he just, because I'm blanking on the technical term, but you understand what I'm getting at once I give you Frank's definition. Frank calls it, oh, you're the PC police. You pretty much like, go after people, with lawsuits who says something like very racist or misogynistic or so forth. And that's pretty much your job. That's what she does for a living. And they pretty much, they clown each other, and they're not exempt for like any kind of clowning themselves. And as they going about this like weekend destination wedding, because the beauty of this is that I think is that you're just focused on these two people. I don't care about any of the other guests. You're not worried about any kind of B plots. You're not even caring about who the hell because even in the title, you just see, you don't even know the name of the bride. You just see bride. And like, I'm pretty sure you get the name of Frank's brother, but it's like, but you don't even get the name of the parents. You don't actually talk with the parents. You see Lindsay and Frank, go in the background, speak with the parents and the brother and the bride. And then you come back in the foreground, and they're just talking to each other. The entire movie is focused on these two people, because that's the only thing you care about. And I love that. I am just in awe of it, because I honestly would not care. I don't think it'll. I think it would make this movie worse for me if I had to spend like Love Actually bullshit with this kind of movie. Because I don't care. It's like about anything but these two particular people that like they had already good chemistry. It's like we're not. This is my take on it. But the next day, as they go through like the actual wedding, and then like the actual like reception, and then they do all the dance, and as Frank like asked her to dance. He doesn't really want to dance, but he's asked her just to keep her mind off of, because she still only came here because she wanted closure with this whole, because she's still kind of hung up over Frank's brother. But Frank's trying to tell her, it's like, it's all pointless anyway. It's like, because he doesn't believe like, in love at all. It's like, it's a pointless. It's like, I'd rather be alone, and you should feel the same way too, kind of attitude. Even though she kind of feels that way, but she only difference is, as she mentions later on in a different scene, it's like there's she holds on to the at least sliver of a possibility, of because like despite all the BS that she does agree with when it comes to relationships, there's always that that finite grain of truth. It's kind of like like it's like hearing like a myth of Bigfoot kind of situation, or a myth about like vampires or werewolves or aliens. It's like all that has some grain of truth to it that that because they just come up. Nobody just came up with this kind of stuff out of the blue. There has to be some foundation of a grain of truth to it that kind of got blown up over time by other as like people tell, adds more to the story as over time goes by and it goes bigger, bigger, bigger till can't even recognize the original take anymore. But that's her thing. She still sees she still believes in that grain of the purest thing of actual love in a relationship. They eventually walk away from this whole dance thing and everything like that. Which, by the way, side note, in the facts of this movie, did you know Keanu Reeves actually is a great ballroom dancer? He loves ballroom dancing, even though in the film he's like, "Oh, no, I hate dancing." He loves ballroom dancing. I think he loves dancing in general, but but he specifically loves ballroom dancing. So they'll go out, into the fields and just to walk, just to get away from it all, because they would not they rather not even be here at all. But he come because as he put it, he'd rather be there, show his face, and have them think he rather not come rather than not come, and then face kind of like the extra ridicule or just whatever that you couldn't make your way out, kind of that add effect. He just rather avoid that nonsense. He just picked the lesser of two evils kind of situation, which I kind of agree. There's certain things and functions I'd rather not do, but half of which I am obligated to, so that way I don't have to hear no BS about for years to come about why I did not show up at this particular function, because I do not want that headache. I 100% agree with him on this kind of notion, because funerals, I'd rather not go to funerals. I'm sorry, I know it's like kind of thing, and it's like something that I more often than not I probably have to go, in at least a handful of those I have to go. But even when I do go, and I think I adopted this from my father, who agrees that it's like I'm going to go to the main function kind of things, like the whole ceremony in the church, pay respects, and then after, because I'm pretty sure that kind of stuff lasts for like an hour. Then I'm just going to bounce home, kind of situation. I don't need to do anything extra like spread the ashes or go to the burial site. I don't really need, you don't need me there for that kind of thing. I know it sounds kind of crass, but it kind of sounds like very like mean spirit or anything like that. But just like I don't do well with like funerals. It's like I know it's not designed for you to like them, like going to them, but it's just like I can't be around all that depressing, melancholy mood. It's just like really the vibes just really like get to me. It's like it makes me uncomfortable. And it's not even funerals. There's certain things. It's like in general, it's like there's something I want to go to, and sometimes I don't. It just like depends how I'm comfortable with, or like if I'm with like if I have like a girlfriend and she wants to go, I'm probably gonna be more obligated to go, but maybe not always even then. But it'd be great to be with a girl who feels like eye to eye with me about how like, hey, do you feel like going to this thing? Not really. Me neither. Cool. Let's lay in the house. But it's like, unless it's like big thing, like if every other year we have to go to like a Thanksgiving dinner with like, family members, or like, Christmas every other year, but you know, this whatever. But anyway, they on this little trail as they're talking, and they run to this mountain line, and this part is like really hilarious. The fact that they freak out. It's like, oh my god, like mountain lion, and she goes off like maybe it's a cougar, or it's like, you know, it's like a cheetah, like you know, what difference does it make? It's like maybe it's like it's named off all these different types of cats. It's like Jesus Christ, and it's so doggone funny because all she does is just rambling. I want to say rambling, but she's just going. She's still trying to carry on like a normal conversation while it's like a fucking mountain lion just staring at them, and he's actually like, you know, like trying to come up with like, hey, I don't care at this point. It's like, it's a mountain lion, duh. But it's like, and she's like, maybe it's a cheetah. It's like, why? We're not in Africa. And then he does, because throughout this film, he has this kind of like I don't know if it's like a tick or just something he does when he's, I don't know, it sounds like he's trying to clear his throat, or like it goes that noise. I don't know what that is, honestly. If anything, you know, well, I think kind of served a purpose to this part of the story, but I could have easily done without that because it is kind of grating. But I guess it kind of supposed to represent certain tics or stuff that you see in another person that you might find annoying at first, but you find like, you know, you get used to it, and then, you know, not even just get used to it, but come to appreciate. Like, my ex, a long time ago, snores like a bear. And at first, when I heard that, I don't know what the hell like it was. And I literally had to, one time, I think the first time or second time, I had to wake her up. I was like, hey, wake up and go to sleep. This is just to keep the snoring. It was like, I don't know how that, you know, that loud, you know, thing coming out like a tiny frame. But after a while, it just came like white noise, and I couldn't sleep without it after a certain point. And just like she could not sleep without me doing all my like talking and stories and stuff like that, so she can help fall asleep. Because, you know, without that, she had to take NyQuil, you know, because she used to work nights. And she needed, you know, help falling asleep. So if I wasn't around, she had to drink NyQuil just to help, you know, get her to sleep. But it's just kind of like that. It's like, you know, that noise is pretty much that version of snoring, you know, to use it as like a metaphor or simile or whatever. And that scared off the mountain lion. And then while they had like a brief moment while it's off in the other direction, they go off in the other opposite direction and they run away. And she's still like trying to name, like they find out which version of a cat it is. And right, you know, just like without missing the beat. And it's like, you know, great timing on Keanu Reeves' part, where it's like, you know, it'd be really ironic right now if I just choke you. Choke to death. And so they, you know, they end up, after a certain point, they, you know, fell down the hill, and like, you know, the adrenaline's pumping, and like, you know, they, you know, it's like they're acknowledging, like, you know, there's something there, and then they mixed with the adrenaline and almost dying and everything like that, all that coming, you know, it's not like they went at each other right away, but there's like, they had a brief discussions, like kind of like he's still trying to get her consent kind of situation first, where it's like they're not in the situation, you know, they're not oblivious, they're old enough to know, like, okay, so clearly like the adrenaline, and it's like, and they still trying to hold a conversation and just, you know, just that kind of thing. And it's like, you know, and they eventually just end up having like some like, it's like, really, I appreciated the most awkward looking sex that I've seen. It's not even, it's way above, because like, no, the awkward sex I ever seen in like a film is like in the Eternals movie between Cersei and Icarus. That's the most awkward, boring looking sex I ever seen in a film. This one is like a notch above it, where it seems like more less romanticized, like you usually see in like certain like rom-com films or just rated R films in general, where it's pretty much trying to be either softcore or hardcore kind of porn. This one is just awkward sex in the heat of the moment. Now, of course, it's probably that wouldn't apply to everybody realistically, but I kind of appreciate the fact that this pretty much just like two human beings going at it in a field, and it's awkward. It's not overly sexual, but it's not boring either. It's kind of like this. You still laugh at the awkwardness of just two bodies just doing what they naturally do. They are attracted to each other, and afterwards they head back to their rooms, and they just sit in like Frank's room watching TV, and they just like they end up watching. Earlier in the film, while they are in the separate rooms, they end up somehow. I want to say somehow they're watching the same kind of programming, and like they both end up criticizing the exact same scenes, because pretty much like a kind of like Grey's Anatomy, I think, because some kind of doctor show, and they both yelling how like stop stop trying to have sex with each other, and save your patience. You both should lose your licenses. It's like, it's funny because it's like they act like they kind of get. It's like, I appreciate the fact that it's kind of like real people. Maybe I don't want to put like a certain age, because I don't think like you don't really need an age classification for this, but it's like they skipped the honeymoon phase into like, yeah, we're naturally comfortable with each other. Like, I really digging you, you clearly digging me, and we're just skipping that whole boring honeymoon phase, and just like we're just in each other's company, and it's like we already in like a nice little it's like, what's the word? It's like when two people, you're already comfortable with each other. It's like you're trying to, when you're starting a relationship, normally you're trying to like find your footing with each other, and learn, you in that learning phase of each other, and like the honeymoon phase, and it's like eventually you not fall in a rut, but eventually you pretty much like, okay, we know enough about each other to know like what each other's thinking, and like just like get that comfortability on the way. And they just like and I really like this part when it's like well, at first they roasting each other and other people on the way to this destination wedding, and just they gotten so used to each other and like appreciate each other's company, more so than anybody else. Keanu Reeves, a character Frank, the way he gives Lindsay a compliment about her features, I like the way it's kind of like Keanu Reeves wrote this himself, because the way he lands, I think this is how Keanu Reeves might really think. When he's like complimenting on like somebody he's like with, and he mentions about like the something of Aphrodite he coined, where he's pretty much like noting Lindsay's facial features, the way it's like perfectly symmetrical, and she carries herself like very gracefully, like he knows her ankles, where it's like the way like it looks, it seems like she'll carry herself well even into her later years. She the way she dresses, it's like despite this day and age, she still holds herself to a standard where she dresses sexy but reserved. Like she doesn't need to like be damn near half naked wearing certain clothes, because you want to still leave mystery to the person you're around. And it's like what's underneath should be reserved to whomever you choose to let through that gate. And it's like, and then like, despite her pajamas, he appreciates the fact that, he mentions, like, he applauds her still hold on to certain values of a woman who dresses not, she jokes like, you call me a prude. Like, no, like, I'm paying you a compliment. You're sexy when you're not trying to try hard about it. And exactly how I usually, for the most part, feel about certain women when they, they leave something to the imagination. I respect the hell out of that. And then she compliments him about, like, his, luscious hair. He's got a strong, muscular features, whereas he's not too, scrawny and, not too wiry. And it's like she has deep, powerful eyes, which Keanu Reeves obviously does. And it's just like, the things that they kind of drawn to each other about. And of course, it's short, but this is where the whole moment where it's like the whole, it's like the whole obligatory fight, between two couples kind of thing you see in movies. You get a little in this, but it's fast, and I appreciate that a lot, because I hate when movies drag that kind of part out, where, like, when Lindsay's trying to, like, bring to Frank's attention, it's like how, like, isn't it weird that two people like us who think kind of like each other, goes to a destination wedding, at the same, meet each other at the airport, sit in in a same plane, sit in a jointed room, sitting in a exact same table at a reception. And it's like you don't find that kind of a miracle. And it's like, no. It's like he calls this as like a interlude or intermission, where it's like, we can, like, enjoy each other's company, and then once we get, back home, we'll be parting our ways as good friends. And she wants him to at least think about it, or at least try to think about it. And he's like, no. He's like, he stands firm on that, despite, her more trying to extend to him a possibility, which, given the fact that he earlier during the reception, earlier in the film, when they, meet up with the family and everything like that, he mentions about a story how, like, his father shot him, and it didn't obviously kill him, but it hurt. And then he ran at his father, took the gun and like hit him over the head with it. And his father started, like, just crying, and then minutes later jump out of a 7-story window, didn't die. But it's just, the family was so dysfunctional. She was, like, just shocked, because I guess he never heard any of the story before from his brother when she was dating him 6 years prior. So because of that situation, that easily affected his, you can tell that easily affected his point of view as far as, like, relationships are. And he's like, okay, I just want to nip in the bud kind of situation. Like, like, I don't want to, be in a relationship. I'm cool, being alone. That's it. I have my doing things, whatever, that kind of, all that kind of stuff. But at least she is, even though she has started out with that same pessimism, but she is willing to allow room. Despite their discussion earlier in the film, she's willing to still allow room for a possibility of love, damn the consequences. Despite her knowing there's consequences in some cases. But she's still allowing that room, because that's the one thing, like, I disagree with Frank on, is that it's like there's no hopelessness when it comes to love. I mean, like, you will get hurt in love, but it's like any risk you take, you rather take the risk because it might pan out, it might not, but you don't want to regret not doing anything about it, which she kind of brings up about like, just giving it a chance. So on the plane back ride, which is kind of funny because the last day, while they having like brunch, like the final day of brunch before like, because earlier in that morning, like usually people are like, 5 hours later, that people gonna be started leaving the place to head off back home, and they was like, they're just cutting it like, no, we're pretty much done now. We had our fun, with the massages, and we at the winery and like watching this stupid wedding, and it's like, it's funny, they're at the table and they just looking out at the people, just all like, should we say our byes? Yeah, you probably should. Bye. And then just get up and leave. And you just get like a nonplus like bye. It's just like, don't even be bothered with like, whatever. That's exactly how I want to do it. Cause like, this is bye. Like, no one will really care. It's like, I'll just up and leave. I don't need to go through the whole, hullabaloo with like, going to each person and just like, aside from maybe a close-knit family, whatever. But it's like, I'll say to like the more specific group of people, I'll say bye and then bounce. I don't need to like address the whole entire damn room. So on the plane ride back, she's still trying to beseech to Frank that, what they have is kind of a miracle. Like two people like them meeting each other is not something that, because normally other people we come across gets on our doggone nerves, but we see eye to eye in a lot of stuff, and we are comfortable with each other. And it's like, Frank just like, stands firm with like, no, let's like just leave it at that. But you could tell that they're like very like into each other, but like Frank just like trying to hold on to that previous, like before they even got on this trip, he's trying to hold on to that notion because what he had for so long. But right as once they landed and like Lindsay's getting they're hailing a cab, she like stepping in and telling very loudly to the cab driver her address, and he says, don't yell out don't tell him your address, you don't know, he doesn't need to know all that stuff. And then and it's like he falls right into it, because I like this moment because you can see it on Lindsay's face that he does care. And it's like, she's talking like, oh, why do you care? Like, I don't. I would have told anybody else that same thing. And like he's staring at her very longingly, and she's staring right back, and she's smiling, and she says like, you're holding the line up, Frank. I mean, like, it's like there's other people in line, and he just stares, still longingly stares at her. He just says, what other people? It's like, I like that. Like, despite what he was saying earlier, just like a few minutes earlier on that plane ride back, all he sees is her. He has fallen for her at this point. Despite him just trying to be stubborn about it, he just cannot, deny what he feels for this woman. And like, there's been a couple of times where she flips him off on her way out of a room or a scene, and she's flipping him off as the cab is pulling away. And it's just like a funny. It just makes him laugh. And of course, later that night while he's at home watching the news, and he's just going through his luggage because he's stealing all these. He stole a lot of these hotel amenities, and it's a nice callback to earlier in the film while they get massages, and he mentions how like he takes certain things. He's like a hoarder of free stuff. Uh, uh, Specifically like certain hotel amenities, like the flip flops. Then, just no more a few minutes later, he goes all the way over to the exact address he shouted out to the cab driver, which I find amazing because like my memory to certain things is not that good. Just all depends. But he recalls what address he shouted out to the cab driver, and he drives all the way over to her house, knocks on her door, and just no words. And he just give a sly smile to her, and she gives him a sly smile back, and the movie ends. Clearly, it's like, and it's like I like this. I don't need a sequel to this or anything like that. I just like in my head can't believe like these two like are just like perfect for each other. And it's like this is why I mentioned earlier how much I love this movie. This is the most realistic take on a rom-com I've ever seen in my life. So like on the bullshit Lifetime movies, like Christmas movies specifically, the Hallmark bull crap, like all these romantic comedies we've seen that ran very heavily during the early 2000s and mid 2000s. All these like rom-coms, it's like so like like The Ugly Truth or Love Actually, or like it's just like God, it just kind of like it's like regurgitate the same crap that's like realistically you don't see in everyday life for the most part. And it's like it's very melodramatic, cookie cutter, just cliches over and over again. And this this kind of like circumvents the whole entire idea of what rom-coms are. These are realistic people who are talking like realistically about how relationship works. Despite their dysfunction, they're establishing a connection through that dysfunction. And just like you talk shit, you have problems in your family, and like you don't really want to. Because if it was anybody else, they would have like Frank reestablishing a connection with his family, and like so hullabaloo. And it's like sometimes your family's fucked up, they're toxic, you don't want to deal with them. If you so choose not to just deal with them, you don't have to. You don't necessarily cut them off, but it's just like I don't really care at a certain moment. Like you, because they're like middle aged, so they don't really care to reestablish any kind of like a long relationship. This is what even though it's probably would be healthy to build those relationships back up, but sometimes you don't, and that's fine. You can pretty much like start anew, and that's why I kind of like Four Christmases. I did that for like the month of Christmas as like a Christmas thing movie review month. Check that out on the channel as well. But I like that too because it's like for one, that also is. But it still has certain cliches with like rom-com stuff, bits and pieces here and there, but I can still grab and take and see like the nuance to it. Whereas like they bicker, they have like a not a traditional, like a non-traditional take on how they want to handle a relationship. Of course it changes. Things change. They initially don't want to like spend Christmas with their families. They don't want to start a family of their own, but they of course end up changing their mind on the subject by the end of the film. But they allow room to grow. But I also like this, where it's just people just being real. It's like I have a shitty, outlook on relationships. We both have for different reasons. And, despite that, you manage to find each other and just be able to be comfortable with each other. It's like, you know what? I wanted to give this a shot with you because we're clicking more so than I ever clicked with anybody, prior to this. We see eye to eye, and it just, it's just, it's something beautiful about that, and that's why I really love this film. It's like, I wish more rom-coms adopt this, this kind of ethos, where it's like you gotta, like, reinvent the wheel every once in a while. Kudos to Victor Levin, who directed this film, who also written it. This is because not many people really care, because it didn't do well at the box office. It had a budget of $5 million, came out with $2.2 million, and like, some people disagree. I understand, but the one positive review that, like, I've seen on records, it was like on IndieWire, gave this movie like a B, and I think that's like a fair assessment. I think B plus, at least B plus to me, at least. As the record's saying, like, maybe this is what falling in love is like, and it's high time that rom-coms had the space for weirdos like these. And I agree. There are some people who are like this. Some people are like Vince Vaughn and like Reese Witherspoon in Four Christmases. There are relationships like these, particular couples that, rom-coms need to make room for. It's not all that, same old cookie cutter crap that we see regurgitated. Because I think that's why it didn't do so well with most people, because they're so used to how rom-coms are, or at least in their mind's eye, supposed to be, and that's what they came to see. Matter of fact, another example, the first Deadpool movie, great relationship. There's like, I wanted to do this film during like Valentine's Day, but I think I might do the first Deadpool movie around that time, because that's a perfect example of a realistic relationship where just two weirdos meeting each other and having established a connection. Nobody's perfect on either side, and you find something lovable about that. But I mean, that's just my take on it. I love Destination Wedding. It's fun. And it's like I said, you only focus on these two. You don't need any extra B-side stories. You don't need, like, the bride getting, you don't need like the groom giving Lindsay, like, because any other director would have done that, like, give Lindsay her closure that she need. It doesn't no love triangle between the two brothers. There's no obligatory fight between them because, like, he's still in love with her, kind of stuff. And you see some obligatory, like, intruding on the wedding by Keanu Reeves saying, like, I love you, Lindsay, and he's not going to love you the way I love you. And it's like, you don't see none of that. It's just point blank, just focus on these two. Boom. And it's like, you don't have to always do it like this, but it's like I said, Four Christmases and Deadpool handle relationships better than anything I've seen in most other films. And I've seen my fair share of, like, rom-coms over the years. And, like, I'm not a huge rom-com guy, but every so often I see some, or especially when it comes to the Hallmark Christmas and Lifetime movies, it's like, God, come up with something new. But that's my review for Destination Wedding. Next week, we'll be wrapping up a month-long review of Keanu Reeves films with all 3 John Wick films. And look forward to that next week. And tomorrow I'll be playing some more Pokemon Legends. Might squeeze in some time for Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel. We'll see. But yeah, it'll be officially February 1st starting tomorrow, or at least in an hour from now. So by Thursday, I will be, doing the next 3 episodes of Delia's World watch along. So look forward to that. And I will see you guys soon. Please, once again, follow me on the links in the description. Let me know what you think of Destination Wedding if you've seen it. But if you haven't seen it, I know I might have spoiled it for you, but please do yourself a favor. I didn't tell everything, but please do yourself a favor, check this movie out, and you will understand my feelings of how, like, you know, this is like a whole nuance of how should be interpreted from this moment forward. Just like with Deadpool and Vanessa, you know, that kind of relationship should be like not mimic 100%, but like give it that same nuance. But I will see you guys later. Have a great evening, and I will see you guys soon. Peace.